So we're going to start on the ruminant side. So we're going to start with dairy, including our farm network initiative and process. And to do that, we have got Jonathan Huxley. John Huxley, who's Professor of Cattle Health and Production at Nottingham. So where the diggers have been busy, I think you might see some more pictures of that. And Jonathan Statham, who is Chief Exec of RAF Solutions, one of our industry partners. So if I can ask John and John, or John and Jonathan, or to come up, and we'll go from there.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Nick. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to be stood here. I think the first thing I would like to say, it reflects a fantastic amount of effort over a number of years, has already been indicated, to get us to this point in time. And I'm delighted that we are now at this point in time. Thank you very much. So you get 10 minutes of the Johns. Firstly, from me covering the dairy facilities, and then the other John talking about the farm network. It started already. I'm trying to be serious here, Ian. So what I'd like to do first up is just outline the breadth and depth of the dairy facilities which have been drawn together under the CL umbrella, and really we're looking at 5 sites across the UK. We're looking at Aberystwyth, Affby, Dutchy, SIUC and Nottingham. So what we're really doing and able to do is join together a huge amount of existing facility and expertise under the CL banner. And if you look at what we do currently, this was quite an eye-opener for me, looking at what just across those 5 sites we can already offer, because already we have extensive breadth and depth covering dairy science and dairy food science, right the way through to on-farm herd health and welfare. We're already conducting and delivering blue sky research through to applied on-farm research. The facilities that have been put together literally range from the 2 extremes of extensive grazing systems through to the more intensive grazing production systems, and then through to the 365-day housed, high-yielding Holstein systems. We've got all those systems under the umbrella. The work we can do will cover everything from individual animals through to whole dairy farm systems work across the platforms which sit within the Dairy CL offering. And we work on calves right the way through to adult cows. And it is the breadth and depth that I think is quite remarkable across those 5 sites. So breadth, we cover a lot of work. Depth, I think particularly you would highlight nutrition and the nutrition offerings across those 5 sites that really offers everything from individual animal metabolism units through to whole farm nutrition systems, and that's the type of work going forward. And if we look at what's going to be added to those sites with the CL investment, the majority of the CL investment is going into Affby and to Nottingham, and it really falls under 4 big banners. This was pretty squeaky bum time, if I'm being brutally honest, at Nottingham. We were literally working with things like, well, if we send our contractors fax them with hard copy follow-up, that will buy us another couple of days that we could pull the plug if we had to. And we were literally working at that sort of level. It was pretty scary at one point in time. But these are the new facilities which are already starting to be generated. So Affby are going to be creating a high-precision grazing platform for dairy and dairy young stock work, making extensive use of telemetry and automated monitoring systems for things like forage intake and feeding behaviour. And then we've got 3 components at Nottingham. Firstly, we are significantly expanding the UK's housed precision nutrition research facilities. We're upgrading and expanding what we already have. We are upgrading the UK's Category 2 experimental infection facilities, including capacity for GMO work, particularly on the mastitis immunology and mastitis vaccinology side of things. And finally, we're putting in a flexible unit, which I'll talk about in a few minutes' time. But it is happening. So we achieved planning in January from a truncated design phase that we'd imagined just over 12 months of design and planning. We truncated that to 6 weeks. We got our application in November. We received planning permission in January. We cut turf about 5 weeks later, and things are moving fast. All our groundwork is approaching completion. Steel has started to arrive. Apparently it is still possible to buy steel in the UK, which came as quite a shock to me. And I guess the only advantage we've had is that if you approach dairy agricultural construction companies, none of them seem to have much on at the moment, and we were able to turn it around pretty quickly and get them on site. So it's cracking along nicely on the development side. And what I wanted just to finish up with before I hand over to John number 2 is just to give you an idea of one of the what we believe is a game-changing facility which we're putting in. We're calling it the Flexible Housing Facility for want of any other better terminology. And what we've done is we've put in, or will be building this building here, which is 2 pens, robotically milked cows, mirror image either side of a central feed passage, and it's big, and it's got a lot of dead space in the middle of it. And of course, if you've got dead space, what that allows you to do is drop in islands of dead space into there to create the sorts of environments we might see on dairy farms. So we can set up the passage widths and the loafing space depending on what islands of dead space we drop into the middle. So, of course, on the other side, we might choose to alter passage widths, number of cross passages, and all those other things, because what we're currently lacking is a detailed understanding of the interaction between the housed environment and genotype and animal physiology and health. We don't really have a good handle on how those environmental aspects interact with genotype and physiology. And the other advantage we have is, of course, we can offer outdoor loafing. So we can manipulate our indoor loafing, we can offer outdoor loafing. So we may wish to investigate, for example, what the impact of offering large quantities of outdoor loafing are on oocyte quality and oocyte production, and the impacts that has on reproductive efficiency in house systems. We also have access to pasture loafing. So again, we could look at any of those combinations in a carefully controlled environment to look at those interactions. And we can literally alter virtually everything in that environment. Feed space, cubicle dimensions, loafing space, cross passages, you name it, we've left the flexibility to be able to change it. And we believe there'll be a fantastic research opportunity going forward. So I will hand over to John to talk about farm networks.
Thank you, Professor Huxley. Always a pleasure. There have been a fair few halves of strong ale over the years that have developed some of these connections, but we won't dwell on those. I reflected on 2 things that I drove over this morning. The first one was exactly a week since I completed my speed awareness course, and perhaps I should slow down a bit. And the second one was connections, and industry connections, industry relevance. Because the farm that I've been on this morning, you might get a slight whiff of slurry and grass silage that kind of might, as it warms up, waft over. But, you know, many years ago, John kind of persuaded me that it is possible to kind of put the pipette down, put the wellies on, and then pick the pipette up again. And actually genuinely crossing and bridging the gap between kind of industry and academia is possible and is really important for where CL sits. And I reflected that really in terms of, we just a straight push on this. Well, no. That's it. There we go. Technology always wins. And I reflect as John reminded me of the lost decade that's kind of nearly taken place since we started to collaborate with some of the university and industry connections. Is basically, as it says here, that the key point is translating research into practice, working within the industry to enhance the value of knowledge. And the farm I've been at this morning is actually maybe one of the few other farms that are using the kind of construction industry at the moment, because in a very difficult climate, there's a new rotary going in, there's new buildings going up, there's a very well thought out 5-year plan that is being followed through, that's got a finance plan in place that is robust, that is about high health, genetically planned expansion. And there's a sustainable footprint in doing that. And this is a farm that's been involved in close to market research for the past 10 years, new innovative vaccine trials, new product evaluation, new nutritional studies. And really it demonstrates that there still is a huge appetite and commitment for positive opportunities within the industry. So 30 to 50 minutes drive away from here, depending on quite how the traffic conditions are, there's very much an appetite for working with CL and actually making these connections continue to be bridged. So, as I say, it's, I can't believe John reminded me it is nearly 10 years since some of the connections with university perhaps got formalised in a way that they haven't always been out there. And the Dairy Herd Health Group at Nottingham is very much about reaching into practicing vets, into the industry, making sure that those connections are actually real and that the blue sky research does actually really take into account what's going on out there in practice and also actually in the industry. So to achieve that, we need a structure. And the farm network and the whole concept really that was crafted in those slightly tortuous negotiations that at times have made the Middle East look like a piece of cake, but are a triumph. They're a triumph, basically, of being able to sit around a table and bring together parts of the industry that actually haven't traditionally cooperated that closely. And it's been fantastic to look at the different schools of thought and the way that there can be, the whole is definitely a lot greater than the sum of the parts. So to do it, it's about structure. And therefore, the academic hub that John basically put up earlier on, we can leverage a huge amount of extra potential from that by using the entire country's opportunity for commercial farms. And if we can use CL to focus, to define, and to make sure the quality of recording and the quality actually of interaction is not just at the bottom level, but is constantly improving, then actually what we do is we create a big data flow. And we actually allow the opportunity for industry to both feed back to CL as well as that evaluation network. So the hub and spoke idea is about the very best of academic blue sky research at the centres, and John's just described how we're investing through CL and increasing that capacity. But actually the spoke part of this is making sure that there is a robust structure to see that it does get out, that it is translating to commercial farms, and that actually that is able to be fed back, therefore, into the centre. So what does that look like? Well, the first thing is absolutely, phenotyping and actually being able to have the large amounts of data that record in a quality way so that we can really take advantage of the genomic revolution which is out there. To make sure that we do get the level of data and the quality of data to really make the most of those opportunities is important. And we've struggled to have a well-defined format and a well-defined structure to actually collect that data and use it to its full potential. And the farm network, therefore, is very much about trying to make sure that we can include lots and lots of commercial farms and make sure that their data and the availability of their knowledge and expertise is used and fed back into CL. So it's an opportunity for evaluating new products as well. It's a ready-made network of farms which can be out there to effectively use the second level down. The blue sky work and the molecular level work is done, but actually with quite a well-controlled overhead, there's a chance for actually moving out there to compete commercially with the rest of Europe and the rest of the world, because we've actually got a very cost-effective network to actually look at evaluations. And it's important that we don't forget nutrition and we don't forget actually opportunities for the fact that this is not just a single high-tech level, it's also about herd level and macro work. So it's a two-way process though, and if evaluation and actually kind of research in the field is one part of it, then also where's the network and opportunity to communicate to the industry and actually exchange that knowledge and make sure that industry, actually the country as a whole, benefits from this new knowledge and actually from the new kind of research work that's out there. So the farm network of CL is also an opportunity for demonstration farms, champion farms, advocates, structured knowledge exchange that can be rolled out throughout the country and beyond, so that actually there's a really strong network to make sure that not only is the research done, but that it's communicated in a way that reaches right down to the grassroots and is visibly out there. So we want to make sure that industry not only appreciates that actually the research is being done, but the benefit is being felt right at that industrial level. And I think I shall leave it there and hand on.